But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the half. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and masters swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Ultimate Swimmer podcast show. I'm your host, Josh Davis, and I'm real excited to be with this ultimate swimmer. She's a 2-time Olympian. She was on the 2000 Olympics with me, where she got 2 gold. She came back 8 years later and made it to another Olympics for Beijing, where she got the silver. Get this. She's a 27-time American record holder. That's incredible. 4-time world record holder, multiple-time Masters world record holder, and author of a very cool book called Get Wet, Get Fit. And she's married to an author. She's an ultimate wife, married to a very cool guy named Nathan. And she's now an ultimate mom to Dathan and Sydney. And just a true ultimate swimmer. So welcome to the show, Megan Jendrick. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's good to see you.
Yeah, we have great memories of the 2000 Olympics together. You were just 16 years old and one of the youngest. Michael was the youngest at 15. You were the second youngest at 16. And I was the oldest at 28. I was the old grandpa on the team.
Don't forget about Dara. I think she had you beat.
She had me beat by a lot. Yeah, unbelievable. So yeah, she was in her 30s already. And so she was the oldest female. I was the oldest male. But we had a great Olympics there. And I got to talk to you on that trip a lot. And it was just so fascinated with your positive attitude and how you could cast a vision and your attention to detail in your goal setting, and just an awesome attitude and your joy for the sport and sincere, joy and appreciation for other people when they would succeed. It was just fascinating that you had all of that at only 16 years old. And so maybe we could go back in your childhood and what was it like growing up? Where did you grow up? What was your first encounter with swimming? What did your coaches and parents do well that kind of set you on that amazing trajectory?
Sure. So I have lived in Washington State my whole life. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and my parents, when I was very young, I believe I was 2, they bought property out on the beach. And we grew up going out there, and it was really, we had like a motorhome at one point, and mostly we tent camped. And then when I was 9 years old, they built a cabin, and now they have a full-blown house out there, and they live out there full time. But we really grew up just going to that 5-acre parcel of land on the beach to relax and have fun. Like, I remember spending the majority of my summers out there sleeping in a tent all summer long. That was just kind of our family thing that we really enjoyed doing. But of course, my parents wanted me and my siblings to be safe around the water. And so I had taken swim lessons when I was younger. I went to a local YMCA with my older brother and took swim lessons, and it never really took off for me. I was one of those kids that just refused to put their head underwater and was terrified of getting water at my nose and water in my eyes. And it was just kind of this scary thing. And so when I was younger, I would get in the water as long as I could touch the bottom, and any more than that, like, I was going to opt out. But when I was 9 years old, my parents said, you guys are having way too much fun at the beach. You guys really need to learn how to swim and be comfortable in and around the water. And so they took us to the local high school pool, and there was a swim team there. And they said, you're going to try out for the swim team for the summer. We don't want you guys just lounging around. You got to have something to do. And when school starts again, you can be done. And so my older brother is 2 years older than me. I remember we show up to the swim team practice and have to take a swim test and see, what group we're going to be placed in. And the swim test was 25 yards freestyle. And my brother dove in the water, did a 25 free, no problem. I remember getting in the water in the lane closest to the wall and looking up at the swim coach and saying, do I really have to do a whole length? And I didn't know exactly what freestyle was. I knew that you put your head underwater and your arms kind of come up over your head. And I just remember taking a really big breath and putting my face under and doing what I thought was freestyle and coming up gasping for air. And I had essentially gone about 5 yards. And that length that took my brother 30 seconds or so to do, it took me, 2 or 3 minutes. And I think that the coach had never seen anyone like me before that had dared to join the swim team. And he said, okay, that was decent. Do you know any strokes? What about breaststroke? And I was just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so at 9 years old, I was placed in the beginner group of swimmers who they were all essentially 4 and 5. They needed a lot of assistance. And there I was at 9 and was just totally embarrassed to be placed in the same group as them. But that actually really motivated me to start working harder because I wanted to earn my way up to swimming in the same group as my older brother. And when the end of the summer came, I had advanced. I was in the same group as my older brother. I went to my first swim meet and won the 50 freestyle, and I was so excited and just decided from there on out, swimming was going to be my thing.
Yeah, that's a great story. I joined the club team relatively late. I remember being 11 and I was put with the 8 and 9 year olds, and it was humbling, But yeah, it's like, okay, I need to move on to get back to my age group and catch up with the others. So that's a great story. But after that, it was pretty rapid improvement. I didn't meet you until I think 97 or 98, but 95, 96, 97, that's pretty rapid improvement you had there from kind of 13 to 15 there. What happened in those years?
Yeah, I was never, before the age of 12, never a standout swimmer, just kind of learning the basics. I was always extremely determined. But never a standout, not the best. I wasn't winning anything, not even necessarily the best in my group. The catalyst for me really focusing on swimming and being determined to become the best was actually watching the 1996 Olympics. And I know, you came home with 3 gold medals from the 96 Olympics. And I remember watching you and Amanda Beard, who was only 14 years old at the time. And she came home with gold and silver medals from those Olympics. And I just remember thinking, if Amanda is only 14 years old and she's at the Olympics winning medals, I can do that. Why couldn't I do that? I could do that too. And it was literally watching those Olympics, I just made up my mind, I'm going to be on the next Olympic team. And I literally went to my room, sat down on my desk, and came up with a 4-year plan on how I was going to make the next Olympic team and listed out over 100 goals that were my stepping stones to help me reach that 4-year plan. And I every single day I went to practice with a specific goal in mind and exactly what I needed to do. And I think that I have always been a swimmer that wasn't necessarily naturally physically talented. I'm not super tall. I'm not super strong. My coaches over the years would probably tell you that I drove them crazy because I had a really hard time making technical changes to my stroke. But the one talent I feel like I've had is I've always been extremely determined and willing to put up with whatever pain and push through the pain. I've never cared how bad it hurt. And so over the course of the next 4 years, from 96 to 2000, I ended up following that 4-year plan exactly.
Wow.
And by 2000, I was number 1 in the world leading into Olympic trials.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating, the power of goal setting and having that vision and just inching forward and believe it, and then
Right.
doing the practical things along the way, obviously, is huge. Showing up in
Exactly.
practice and going through the pain barriers. That's
Right.
huge.
And for me, I was very public about my goals. If I said them out loud, then it held me to that standard. So when people ask, what are your goals for this meet, or what do you want to do? I would tell them exactly what my goals were, what I was working towards. And that really made it so that it held me accountable. When I went to practice, there was no giving up. There was no taking extra rest. There was no not finishing the set. By me stating my goals out loud so that everyone could hear, it made me accountable to those goals.
Yeah, I love that about you. It was very inspiring. I'm like, wow, she's just putting it out there for everybody to know. And, maybe some people thought it was a little cocky.
Happy? Yeah.
But I always thought, yeah, you go, girl. I want, everybody should have guts and have fun like that. Just go for it and be yourself. And, who cares? It's just a sport. This is all ultimately a sport. This is for fun.
Right.
So I'm glad you did that. Well, you kind of come on the scene in '99. You went to Pan Pacs with us in Sydney, Australia to try out the Olympic pool. And we were like, holy cow, this little girl's getting really fast, 15 years old. And that obviously cemented for you, like, okay, yeah, I'm on track. I want to come back here next year when I'm 16.
Yeah, for me, just walking in to that pool and knowing that that's where the Olympics were going to be taking place, I remember just this overwhelming feeling of admiration for walking into that facility and knowing that a year from now, this is going to be my stage. That was my mindset in that moment. And I'm going to do everything that I can to prepare for that. And I was really, really big into visualizing. So for me, I would be, every single night before I went to bed, I would pick a race and I would visualize that race, almost always the 100-meter breaststroke. And so getting the opportunity to race in the Olympic pool a year before the Olympics, it allowed me that opportunity to then see exactly what the pool looked like, what colors the lane lines were, what color the flags were, where the stands were. I got the old rail.
Yeah, your mental rehearsal was in full color. You knew exactly what you wanted to do and what it was going to look like. And so when the time finally came, you could just kind of go on autopilot and enjoy the moment.
Right.
Because if any of you guys listen, you go YouTube Megan's 100 breasts from 2000 Sydney, Penny Haynes is over there, defending the Olympic champion. And, a couple of Australian girls, with the hometown favorites, everybody much older than you. And yet it didn't seem to faze you. You just did your race, even though some others were out faster, and you just did your thing. And
I had a coach at the time that he was always repeating to me, you can swim in any pool, anytime, any place. You could swim in the mud and you'd still get faster. That was our mindset. It didn't matter who was swimming next to you. This is just another pool. This is just another race. You've done this 100 times or 1,000 times. When you think about all the visualizing that had been done, this is just another race. So to me, looking back on it now, I look at those races and I go, oh my gosh, there was the world record holder in that heat. There was a former world record holder. There was the world champion. At the 2 Aussies next to me that 18,000 people in the stands were cheering for. But in that moment, it was just another race.
Yeah, I love that. That's great encouragement for the young swimmers out there listening. that might have some folks that they get to race that maybe they haven't beat yet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's next to you. It doesn't matter how big or tall they are. It doesn't matter what their resume is. You've got your own lane, and you just let your body go on autopilot of what you've trained it to do physically and what you've trained it to do mentally.
Right.
So you touched in a lifetime best time just off the Olympic record. And I think it was an American record. And
yeah,
the best part was your smile, just the way you celebrated when it finally all registered. You just had the best smile. And I tell people this, I says, guys, when you win the Olympics, you've got to smile and celebrate because, and especially, you did a good job on the award podium where you were singing the anthem and smiling too. And I says, guys, you'll actually make more money if you have a great smile and you really celebrate well, because not many people know that, but it actually helps with sponsors and, publicity and things like that.
It's so funny that you say that because I did turn pro after the Sydney Olympics, and the very first contract I ever signed was with McDonald's. And it was back in the time when they had their "We Love to Make You Smile" campaign.
Yes.
And that was the first commercial I was ever in. It was my reaction at the end of that race. It was just like, I was so excited, and I think I had the double fist pump and just like the biggest smile on my face. And I don't think that smile went away for days. It was just like the accumulation of all of that hard work. And in that moment, it all came together, and I was riding on cloud nine for a really long time.
Oh, absolutely. And well, you should. But, it's funny how some of the athletes, when they win, they would just kind of grimace and pound the water, and I'm like, guys, don't do that. Don't pound the water. Just smile. And, sponsors are going to come calling. Well, what incredible poise and execution for a 16-year-old. And what more advice would you give to young swimmers out there to help make the biggest race of their life, the most enjoyable race of their life?
I think it's really all about believing in yourself. There's way too many times, and I know this happened to me and I learned from those experiences, but way too many times when you worry more about the person racing next to you than you focus on yourself. I see this as I do private lessons and things with young swimmers now, is they work themselves up so much about a race because they've looked at the heat sheet, they've looked at the psych sheet, they're worried about the person that's swimming next to them. And it's like, don't think about any of that. You can't control what they do. Control what you can control, and that's yourself. So focus on yourself and go out there and have fun with it. Whenever I would start to get those butterflies in my stomach before a race and the nerves started setting in, I would remind myself to just smile. This is supposed to be fun, right? It's not supposed to be this really stressful thing. I'm here because I enjoy swimming and I like to have fun. So whenever those moments start to get stressful, I would just stand back and just smile. And that was my reminder of like, this is fun. You do this because you enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think they did a scientific study that proved that the smile, even if you're faking it, it still kind of releases something good. It still kind of puts your mind and your body in a posture that's very, very healthy and will release you to perform your best. Yeah. So I think that's a great advice. So you have a little ritual before you raced where you kind of snap your back. You know what I'm talking about?
I still do that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you have your little?
I still do that.
Little popper.
I find myself, even when I go into like big meetings now or something's really important to me, I crack my back. That's like one of those things that I just do. It's my pump up sort of thing that I just do to get ready for something that's important to me. Yeah.
I hate to focus. I don't mean to, be rude and focus on it, but that was kind of one of your ritual things. And it always that was like, okay, you're locking in.
Yeah. Ready to go.
Michael Phelps had his big, wing flap, and you had your little back pop, and that means you're ready.
Yep.
So
it's like putting on a super suit. Whenever you put on your racing suit, you just all of a sudden your mindset changes and it's race time. Like you're ready to go. Yeah. It was me putting on my racing suit. It was like, okay, it's go time. We're ready.
Yeah.
And then it was getting behind the blocks and doing my little ritual, and then it was go time.
Yeah. And I think that's okay for folks to have, a warm up procedure to get your mind and body ready for a meet, for a big race, and all the great ones, they kind of had a similar warm up. They kind of, they're whatever they did an hour before the race they tried to kind of make it as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
And granted, there's flexibility because every pool and every session has something that comes up. It's, you don't want that to throw you off. But if you can lock into that ritual, that proper warm up and the moments before the race, I think it really helps.
I agree.
So here's where the story gets good, though. And you go pro, which is, very not unusual. A couple of the girls did it at the time, but overall, that is unusual to not go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Take us briefly back to that mindset. Why no college? Why just go pro?
For me, I felt like collegiate swimming is focused on short course swimming, and all of the major international competitions at the time were long course. And I felt like I wanted my focus for the next few years to be on long course training and long course racing. And I've always been a very practical person, right? So I thought my career is only going to last for so long, right? But school will always be there. I always will have the opportunity to go to school. Now, it took me 13 years to get my bachelor's degree, and next Thursday, I will graduate with my master's degree from the University of Texas. So seriously.
Great.
So this whole process has taken a long time, but school and education will always be there. And so at a very young age, I thought, if I can make a career out of this and I can focus on the things that I want to focus on in this minute, I know that there's a small window, a small time frame that I have to actually do what I absolutely love right now, which was swimming. And so I made that decision to go pro at 16 and focus on swimming for what I thought was going to be the next 4 years, which turned into 8+ years, and go that route instead, which was not necessarily the route that most people were taking, and not necessarily the popular route either. I got a lot of what would be considered backlash at that time from like, how could you make that decision? You're only 16. And don't you know that all of these colleges wanted you to go there and swim? And do you know what you're doing to your career at this point? So there was a lot of those questions that I was faced with at a pretty young age.
Yeah. Well, I find that fascinating that you just stuck to your guns and you stuck to your gut. And you're like, yeah, I want to keep racing. I felt like you've always had an entrepreneurial business savvy about you, an entrepreneurial spirit. And, like you said, practical. It's like, hey, I can make some money doing this. This is what I want to do. And, so I love it. I love that you did that. But here's what I found that all Olympians have in common. One is they all set their goals, and they all were really good at that, kind of having that vision and doing the steps to get there. And the second thing every Olympian has in common is adversity. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us has had setbacks, injuries, off seasons, bad days.
Yeah.
That's the reason we set our goals, is because we're normal. We have bad days. And that's what the kids at the clinics, it's just kids. If the greatest athletes on the planet have to have their goals because we have so many bad days, do you think you need to set your goals in case you have a bad day? It's like, oh yeah, absolutely you do.
Oh, so and you learn so much more in those bad days and those failures than you do in the successes most of the time, because it's what you do with those failures that helps to build you up and change your mindset on how to move forward. I always told myself, I've been DQ'd dozens of times and had those bad races or races that I felt like I should have done better on, or I should have won and I didn't. And for me, my mindset always was, this isn't a failure as long as you learn something from it. There's no such thing as a bad race as long as you learn something from it. So my goal was always to make every single race worthwhile. I could mid-season swim a 200 breaststroke and be 10 seconds off my best time. And people in the stands would look at that and go, what the heck is she doing? But I was training so hard at that point, and 10 seconds off my best time was just sometimes what happened. Yeah. But I would take that and really, what did I learn from that race? What could I implement next time to do that better? And as long as I walked away with what I could do better next time, then to me, that was a successful race.
Yeah. Never losing, always learning.
Yes, that's a great mindset to have. I love that.
I wanted to take a moment from this fascinating interview to let you know about a new partner for the Ultimate Swimmer podcast, and that is SwimShare. SwimShare is a free workout riding tool. Just Google SwimShare, all one word, SwimShare. And you can put in today's workout in just a few clicks, and it sends and stores all your workouts within seconds. The first workout you'll see on there is one of my favorites from yours truly. Check out SwimShare and take your workouts to the next level. Send, store, and share your swimming masterpieces with SwimShare.
I don't know if you can give us the whole synopsis of all the ups and downs. You know, the coach changes, life changes, you get married, there's injuries, different towns, different training methods. I mean, a lot happened in those 7 years,
right?
You know, between 01 and 08.
Yeah. Let's see, it was 2001. The team that I had swam on, the coach that I had trained with, essentially my whole career up to that point, he took a job in Florida. So he moved as far away as he possibly could have from Washington to Florida. And the team that I grew up on, it was called the Puyallup Aquatic Club, ended up merging with another swim team. And they brought in an age group swim coach. And I was a junior in high school at the time, and talked with my parents about, do I move across the country at this point in my life when I'm a junior in high school to follow this coach that I've had great success with, or do I stick it out here? And what does that look like for our family? Because I was 17 years old at the time, and really came to the decision as a family that I was going to finish out high school in Washington State with the swim team that I had grown up on, that was under a new name and a new coach and things like that, and kind of see how it went. And so I did that and had quite a few ups and downs during that time. Had a coach at the time with considerably less experience, I would say. But I was really trying to make the best of the situation and really continue focusing on all of the big meets. And I continued setting goals and really was still having a ton of fun swimming.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, in the end, that was the biggest thing is if I didn't love coming to practice every single day and being with my teammates and working hard, I wouldn't have done it. And I was still absolutely loving every single day. And, but my times were not reflecting that hard work and that having fun with my teammates. And so went through some ups and downs, and in 2004, went to the Olympic trials and ended up going my best time in the last 4 years, but unfortunately took third place, which at Olympic trials is pretty much the worst place to come in.
Yeah.
And missed making the 04 Olympic team by 11/100ths of a second. And so I remember I actually have a photo that somebody had taken. I think it was the Seattle Times took a photo right when I had gotten out of the water. And I remember having like the biggest smile on my face and just being so happy with the time that I had gone and what it took to get there.
Right.
But then also knowing I was going to spend the next 20 or 30 minutes talking with the media about what they would perceive as my biggest failure. I was the defending Olympic champion and was not going to have that opportunity to go and defend my title. And so I remember making the decision before I even got out of the water, put a smile on your face and go out there, and you gotta face face the fans and face the music and make this a good situation. And so I really tried to do that in 2004. And at that point had thought that was the end of my career, that after racing the 200 breaststroke, which was definitely not my stronger event. It was one I always kind of did for fun at that point. A few days later that I was going to retire as a swimmer. And at 20 years old, which just seems so crazy now, but I flew home from Olympic trials thinking, well, that was a great career. I had a lot of fun, and it's time to move on. And I had gotten engaged earlier that year and was looking forward. I was planning a wedding. Our wedding was in December of that year. And so I did have a lot of other things to look forward to. But I didn't swim at all for about 6 months or so. And it wasn't until actually the day after Nate and I got back from our honeymoon that he goes, hey, I set up coffee for you and this coach, unbeknownst to me. Like, I just wanted, maybe you're interested in coaching or lessons or something, but I just set up coffee for you guys. And I left having coffee with this coach thinking, man, I want to swim again. And so it was in January of 2005. I was like, wow, I'm going to get back into swimming. And within just a few weeks did a timed 100-yard breaststroke and was just under a minute in practice in a 100-yard breaststroke and was like, wow, I've got something left in me. I'm not done yet. And so really just started setting those goals again and started working hard. And it ended up working out well, making the 2008 Olympic team, which was great. But there was injuries along the way. Being a breaststroker, I had groin pulls and things like that I had to overcome. And after the Beijing Olympics in 2009, I broke my leg at a national team training camp and raced 9 weeks after that with a broken leg at World Championship trials. So there was a lot along the way.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, can you give us a little story on the national team training camp injury?
Yeah.
Did someone else get injured too? Was there like a couple of you?
Michael Phelps got injured. He got a concussion on that same training event. Yeah, we were in, this was March of 2009. We were in Chula Vista, California at the Olympic Training Center there. And we had a day of training with the Navy SEALs, which was just like out of this world. It was so much fun. But we were all dressed in full Army fatigues. It was like 75 degrees that day. So it was pretty warm out. Yeah. And we were doing an obstacle course on the beach. And there was probably like 30 different stations to this obstacle course. And anywhere from like climbing a 60-foot cargo net without being harnessed into anything to like digging under barbed wire through the sand.
All the stuff you see on TV.
Like doing all these. Yeah, and it was the most fun. It was so incredible. The very last station of this obstacle course was just monkey bars. But these monkey bars were on the beach and they were at like 12 feet of elevation. So you had to climb a rope and then go across these monkey bars. Well, my hand was all sweaty and I just slipped on the monkey bars and fell the 12 feet or so on the beach. And I thought, man, my leg doesn't feel good. But we had a trainer there and he came over and he's like, nah, you're fine. And after this obstacle course, the next part of the day was running 1.5 miles down the beach. And then the whole next portion of the day was out in the dinghy boats and being out in the ocean. And, when you know the Navy SEALs, they do everything as a team. You're only as strong as your weakest member of the team. And so as we were running down the beach, we had already been split into different teams. And I was getting further and further behind my team and was like running with a limp. And it was just, man, my leg was hurting so bad. But I had these 3 Navy SEALs behind me saying, suck it up, go faster. Your team's going to get last because of you. And so I just kept going. And at one point, I thought somebody had actually picked up a rock and threw it at me because when my bone actually snapped in half, that's what it felt like I was being hit with something. And I just fell over on the beach. And these Navy SEALs behind me were still yelling at me like, get up and go. It's like, I can't move. They later felt very, very bad. But at the time, they had to carry me to the medic. And we still didn't know that I had actually broken my bone. Yeah. And so my leg ended up being reset. The bone was reset just while I was laying on the table, and they were kind of, feeling around on my leg, figuring out what's going on. Well, when my leg was reset, I had an asthma attack and went into a full-blown panic mode. And then they started pumping me full of all these drugs. I got a couple different shots within a matter of minutes. And they took me to the hospital, and I had x-rays, and they go, oh my gosh, when you fell, you cracked your bone. And then running on it, it ended up snapping in half and was separated. Oh. And so I had to wait 3 days before I could fly back home to Washington because they were afraid if I flew, my leg would blow up really big. Don't get first or second and make the world champs team, then you lose all your national team funding and stuff for the next 2 years. Yes, and so I was like, I have to go there and I have to race. And I raced at world champ trials with a broken leg and ended up taking 7th. I didn't make the team, but then flew home and just raced at a local meet here and set the American record in the 50-meter breaststroke.
You are amazing. What an incredible story.
God. Yeah, crazy times.
I know. Well, hopefully that's an encouragement to a lot of people out there who have an injury or have a sickness or this Corona break where you haven't had steady training in 7-8 months. A lot of people frustrated and discouraged and feeling out of control this year. And so I think your story really resonates. It's possible to come back from some crazy stuff.
It is. It definitely is.
Well, you make 08, which is incredible, by 1/100th. You touched out, Tara.
Couldn't get any closer than that.
Oh, that had to have been a good feeling.
It was a great feeling. That was, after missing it in 04, and then deciding that I wanted to commit to this again. The ultimate goal, I think, for most elite swimmers would be to make the Olympic team. And then once you make the Olympic team, it's doing really well at the Olympics. And if you're an American, if you've made the Olympic team, you've got to be top 5, top 10 in the world at that point, because the U.S. team is just so hard to make. So, most people have a pretty good shot of medaling if they've actually made the U.S. team. And so that was the best feeling in the world, to make the team and to know that, hey, it took 8 years instead of the 4 that I was expecting, but I met that goal. And then it was like, okay, now that I'm on the team, I really need to set my sights on doing well at the Olympics.
Wow. Any special memories of Beijing?
Well, Beijing was awesome because my husband was there along with my parents, and we spent some good time touring around and just kind of hanging out afterwards. And being there with my family was just really, really awesome. Yeah. It was nice to make it back, the 8 years later, and for them to see how far I'd come at that point.
Yeah, no, it's definitely more special when you have family there to share it with.
And then, of course, the teammates, too. I mean, Phelps was obviously amazing at that Olympics and made history. And just being able to be on site and witness what he had done in person. I mean, you watch it on TV now in the highlight reels, and it's incredible to see even, this that long ago, but to see that in person and to be on the pool deck or right by the warm-up pool, peering through the curtains, watching that happen live was pretty incredible.
I got to be there in the stands cheering. And so I feel the same way. To have seen that with my own eyes, it really was a special thing in the history of swimming. And it's almost like the swimming gods were like, okay, we're going to make this cool thing happen. So watch out. And Michael did it. And Yeah, a lot of great epic moments of those Olympics for the girls and the guys. And so I'm glad I got to be there to cheer and watch you guys. Then you got to put the super suit on in '09 and break one more American record.
Yep.
And so of your 27 American records, does any one of them kind of stand out as extra special? I mean, besides the one coming off the broken bone.
Yeah, I think the Olympics would probably have to be the most special, only because, it was the Olympics and it came along with the Olympic gold medal. But the one that I feel like I had to push through the most, it was in '09. It was swimming with a broken leg, and it was swimming when many odds were against me.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you kept training for 2012 and just missed that team, and then finally retired in 13. And that's 15 years on the top levels, international level, racing for Team USA. That's an incredible career. And especially for a breaststroker, because I think there are more challenges to keep the knees healthy and the body healthy and strong, because you got to be a certain level of strength and flexibility and uniqueness to, for success at breaststroke.
Right. And I will say, although that spanned 15 years, after about '09, I was still swimming and training and actually swimming really well. I was third at World Champ Trials in 2013. But I had my son, Dathan, was born in 2011. And so for me, going to the 2012 Olympic trials was more like, how cool would it be to have my son there, who's only 7 months old, getting to watch me race at Olympic trials? To me, that was really exciting. And then I ended up sticking with it for a few more months after that to go through the 2013 World Champ Trials. And my last race there was a 100-meter breaststroke. So it was a good way to end a career.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's huge to race at trials 7 months after, having Dathan. I mean, that's incredible. So I love that. And I think that should be very encouraging to a lot of people, especially moms out there. So I love that.
I want to take a quick break from this super fun interview to tell you about an awesome new resistance tool I found at gmx7training.com. Swimming with the GMX7 training resistance system allows me and my swimmers to not just go 25s, but 50s and beyond. GMX7 training allows you to get strength gains faster, engage the core more, feel the catch of the water better, and get more work done in less time. GMX7training.com. Don't just get strong, get swimming strong. Check it out at GMX7training.com.
What advice would you give technique-wise to breaststrokers out there?
It's tough to give technique advice because breaststrokers are kind of an oddity where it really depends on your height and your strength. And when you could look at an Olympic final of breaststrokers and they all swim so differently.
For every body type of breaststroker, there's a stroke type. Like they're all different.
They are all different. For me, I was very leg driven and leg focused. So probably 70 to 80% of the power came from my legs. When I was swimming, my legs were just so strong. I could never find pants that fit because my quads were like the size of tree trunks. And then I had this little waist. And so it was like impossible to find pants that fit. But for me, I was very, very leg driven. And it was actually when I broke my leg in 2009, where I was pulling for months. I couldn't kick at all. And it really made me focus on my arms, that I feel like my pull just got so much better because of that. But for me, the majority of my career, it was focusing on the strength and flexibility in my legs and really being able to bring my feet all the way up, turn the feet out, and really get the full range of motion and the most power from my kick, and then taking advantage of the glide and breaststroke. That's what most young swimmers don't realize is you can glide. And if you have good technique and a good body line, you can glide and get a lot out of that glide without having to do very much work.
Yeah, I mean, ankle flexibility and finding the line,
Right.
make a huge difference.
They really do.
Huge. Did you ever sit on your ankles to increase that ankle flexibility?
Oh yeah, I did all that crazy stuff with, ankle rotations, sitting on my butt with my feet out to the side and my knees.
Yeah.
I was to the point where I could lay down with my knees and my feet in that position and stand back up without using
Whoa.
my hands at all.
That's awesome.
That was one of the exercises that I actually did that I look back at that now and I go, holy cow, that took some crazy flexibility. I have no idea how I did that.
Oh, that's so cool. Looking back on your career now from the perspective of a mom and, several years from your career, what do you think you did well? And what do you think maybe something you could have done better?
I think one of the things I did well was I was always having fun.
Yeah.
To me, I wouldn't have stuck with it if I wasn't having fun. And I think that I made that the goal of every practice, of every meet, was the whole intent behind this is to have fun. So don't let the stress of whatever meet it is or whatever place you want to get to you. Just go out there and have fun. And that's what leads to your best performance. I think the other thing was just having a really mentally tough attitude. And some of that came from all the goal setting that I did. And some of that came from being really confident based off the visualization that I had done. But really being mentally tough, I think, was something else that I did really well throughout my entire career.
Yeah. Eddie Reese, my University of Texas coach, said there was 3 things that it takes to make a great athlete. Number 1 is genetics. Number 2 is work ethic, studying the sport, eating right, training right, all those things, all those practical things. And then there's a 3rd thing he said, he called it the X factor. That, when it's game time, when the lights are on, you're a gamer. You love the race. It's not that you like to win, it's that you hate to lose.
Yep.
You just put me in the game, coach,
Yep.
Let me anchor. Just give me a shot. That's all I want is a lane and a shot. And we called that the X factor.
I like that. The X factor.
I mean, you had good genetics, but not crazy genetics, but you had great work ethic and great X factor.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that I had that sometimes goes unnoticed is I had parents that were insanely supportive of absolutely everything that I did.
Yeah.
They were the type of parents that were never, ever pushy about, how I did. I remember when I was young, I was 9, my brother was 11 at the time. We had to ride our bikes 5 miles to the pool just to go to swim practice because both my parents were working. And then we'd ride our bikes back after our hour-and-a-half swim practice in the rain sometimes. And it was, my parents, if you guys want to do this, and this is what is part of going into making it happen. And they were at every single meet that I had, but they never even knew what my best times were. It was always like, no matter what I did, that was a great race. And even if I came back and said, well, was it? I mean, I added 5 seconds. They'd be like, well, we loved watching you.
Yes.
And that was the mindset. It was like never ending love and support, no matter what my performance was. And I think that is one of the things that really helped put me over the edge in my career, was just knowing that no matter what I did or what place I took or what my time was, that my family was there to support me.
Yes, that's so huge what you just said. And I think when you know you're loved and you love what you do, that's the formula for a long, healthy career. And I think there's 3 pressure points. An athlete puts pressure on themselves like a great athlete does and should. And then there's the coach that puts pressure on the athlete, like a good coach should. They make you do the things you don't want to do to become the athlete you always want to be. But there's a third party that it has to be just right. They just should love and cheer and feed, and that's the parents. And sometimes if the parents push too much in the wrong way, it'll collapse and burnout happens. But if you got that parents that can just love and cheer and feed, that becomes the refuge. That becomes the safe place where the athlete can go back into that fire, because they put pressure on themselves. The coach puts pressure on themselves. And so, but you have those parents that provide the safe place to keep going back out and keep fighting,
Right.
keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah. And my parents were always really good about knowing just when to say the right thing to either motivate me or care for me when they knew like, oh, that workout was just so tough, or that was a really tough loss. I remember one instance where my dad, this was going into the 1998 Nationals in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah. And my best time in the 100-meter breaststroke at that point was a 1:13. And my goal was to go a 1:09. And I remember getting ready for that meet, and my dad knew that this comment was just going to push me and motivate me just as I needed. And he said, you know, what are your goals for this meet? What do you think you're going to do? And I said, oh, it took a 1:09 to win the last Nationals, so my goal is to go a 1:09. And he goes, your best time's a 1:13 though. Don't you think dropping 4 seconds in one race is a little bit much? And he knew that in saying that, it was going to motivate me just enough. It was just that right amount of pressure, as you know, he just knew that about me. And sure enough, I came home from that meet, the national champion, with 1:09.32, I think. Yeah.
Just like Amanda Beer did when she was 14, right?
Right.
So why not? But
why not?
Your goal setting is awesome, and the way it played out was awesome, and your career is awesome. So I'd like to close with a little lightning round of questions, just to get to know Megan a little bit better. So favorite color?
Blue.
Me too. Favorite food, dessert, restaurant thingy? Anything favorite food related?
Sushi. We go and eat sushi every Sunday. It has now become Sushi Sunday.
Yeah, I like that. Favorite pool you've ever raced or swam in?
The Sydney Olympic pool.
Yeah, that is a good one. Favorite city you've ever visited as an athlete or tourist?
Oh, I would actually say Sydney as well, because that's most offer.
Yeah. I tell people Australia is great to visit because everybody lives near a beach, everybody speaks English, and they throw great parties, and they're just a lot of fun, you know? It's just
all of that is very true.
I love Australia. Do you have a favorite drill you ever used to do?
Oh, I loved 2 kicks, 1 pull for breaststroke.
Yeah. Can you recall a favorite set in particular? I know you've done 1,000 of them, but is there one that kind of was a go-to for you? I
don't know that it would be considered favorite, but it is the one that 20 years later is still ingrained into my mind. And it was 10 200s breaststroke. This was long course meters on 4 minutes.
Okay.
And I had to be under, it was 2:36 for each one of the 200 breaststrokes.
Long course?
Long course on 4 minutes. But my coach would give me a single 50 meters, and it would change within each 200. He would call out like second 50, and that 50 had to be under 36 seconds as a split, or that 200 didn't count. So here I was going at least 2:36 for the 200s long course. But if that specific 50 split was not at least 36 seconds or under, I had to redo the whole 200.
Well, yeah, if you do that, you're going to win Olympic gold medal. I mean,
that was the hardest set I've probably ever done.
That set is crazy. That is fascinating. I'm kind of writing that down for my college swimmers. Favorite dry land weight room thing?
I love really anything that involved cardio activity. So one of the things later in my career when I got to mix things up a little bit more was incorporating boxing into my dry land. And I had a lot of fun with that. Yeah,
absolutely. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Yeah, awesome. And next lightning round is the 7 habits of highly effective swimmers that an ultimate swimmer does. We talked about finesse is the technique thing. You know, you talked about your favorite drill. And we talked about the kick and the glide. So we kind of talked about those things. Number 2 is fitness, the importance of training. Were you kind of a doubles person, or do you think singles are better?
So that really changed throughout my career. When I was younger, from about age 14 to 20, I was doing doubles. I did 11 swim workouts a week, plus like 4 or 5 dry land workouts. And we would average about 20,000 meters a day, which seems insane when my main event was a 100-meter breaststroke. I was training to swim a marathon, essentially. And although that seems really crazy now, it did give me this amazing endurance base that has, I think, stuck with me my whole life so far. I could still get in the water, and if I trained for a couple weeks, I could put out, I think, some pretty decent times to this day. But that definitely changed as I got older. My body couldn't continue on with that volume of training. And when I was between about 20 to 24, I went down to single workouts each day, but each one of those workouts was about 3 hours long. I actually swam insanely well after my son was born, and I did 5 1-hour workouts a week. And I was on track for I think I was a 108 low, 100-meter breaststroke training 5 hours a week.
Something there. That's good. It's good to have experienced all of it, so you kind of know. We talked about the importance of flexibility, stretching those ankles, having a great streamline. Number 4 is fueling. You always ate clean. You always were a good healthy eater, and picky about your food in a good way.
I owe that to my mom. She's always been a very clean eater. And so, especially when I was younger, and my parents did all the shopping for the household, it was nice because not only did I eat really good, clean food, but I also came home every night to a prepared dinner that was waiting for me. And that's one of the things that as you get older, you really miss that. My husband did an amazing job. He's a great cook. And so later on in my career, he kind of took on that role. But that was great growing up to have that.
Yeah, especially if you just did 10 grand, you should definitely.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Number 5 is fun and focus. I mean, no one does it better than you, where you had the focus, you had the goals, you stayed positive, you were grateful, had an attitude of gratitude, and you made it fun. So we talked a lot about that. Any final thoughts on that?
I have grown up and done many swim camps with you over the years. And 2 of your kind of phrases that have always stuck to me, with me, and I preach to swimmers now these days, is having the attitude of gratitude, and also how you have always talked about having finesse in the water. You don't want to look like a football player that's thrown into the pool and asked to swim 25 yards. You want to swim with finesse and grace. Right. And so those are 2 of the things that I learned from you and that have always stuck with me. And now I tell that to other swimmers.
I love that. Number 6 is family and friends, the importance of healthy relationships. You were really good at this. You got along with your brother and your parents. You respected your mom and dad. You found Nathan, great guy. You made each other better. Even after you get married, you get faster. You did a great job surrounding yourself with a great support team.
Yes. And Nate and I are celebrating 16 years of marriage in just a few more weeks. Mm-hmm. And we have 2 amazing kids that have added to that have been really, really great.
So the formula goes, when you have healthy relationships, that creates low stress or a happy heart, which creates peak performance. And you exhibited that your whole career. So that's cool. And then number 7 is faith, the importance of being strong spiritually, working on the core of your being so that the mind and the body are freed up to perform ever better. And, would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah, I think people exhibit faith in many, many different ways. And for me, it was having this never ending belief that I could accomplish anything that I set my mind to, and always having faith that no matter what I had to overcome, that I could overcome that. And my mom always referred to it as having the will to do well. I think the will and faith kind of go hand in hand in many ways. And she actually said the first words out of her mouth after I won in Sydney in the 2000 Olympics was, of course, hugs and smiles and we love you so much. And then it was, you truly did will yourself to win that race. And to me, it was, I had the faith to know what I was doing and to truly believe in what I was doing. She referred to that as having the will to win.
I love that. I love that. Well, you've certainly been blessed, and we're inspired by your career. And I hope we can do a clinic together again sometime soon.
I would love to. It has been a long time.
But I can't believe it's been 20 years since we were in the Olympics together.
I know.
And,
it's just crazy.
You look the same. So thank you for being an ultimate swimmer. Thanks for being on our show. And we can't wait to see you around the pool sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my favorite swim cap, the Hammerhead swim cap. It's the safest, fastest, longest lasting, most comfortable swim cap in the world. Its one-of-a-kind patented honeycomb shock-absorbing technology will prevent concussions. And the Hammerhead cap has no wrinkles to ensure top speed with the least resistance. And it's super comfortable. That's easy to get on and easy to get off, and it will never tear. This is the last cap you will ever need to buy. Safety and speed, all at hammerheadswimcaps.com. Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an Ultimate Swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your Ultimate Swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal, to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an Ultimate Swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.